Good afternoon. Welcome to OptionsTender. It's Monday, August 11th, 2025. What a day in the cannabis market. More on that just a little bit. I'll show you the daily time frame, but then I'll do for members a full analysis. And if you haven't watched my public video about cannabis, I'll place it on the end of this. Nobody's talking about it. It's just a huge opportunity. And although there is a massive move today, any pullbacks are a great opportunity. We're looking at decades of this. It's like buying Apple at $10, but being afraid to buy it at $100. It just kept going with stock splits and such. And really excited about that. So I'm glad everybody that's been in it so far. It's just the beginning. So let's jump into the markets, and we're doing this after the bell today. It's such a busy weekend and a lot going on. So I'm sorry to give you excuses, but I'm going to get these videos whenever I can to you, and usually intraday. But if you want to consider becoming a member with the Discord and trade alerts and such, consider becoming a YouTube member. It's 99 cents, and we did a members video earlier today that explained the exact level of what we were looking at for a reversal and or for price to get over and hold on to. Then we'd have to reconsider. So we're going to go on the, actually, you know what, I'll pause the video and I'll do the whole weekly top-down analysis here instead of just the daily right now. Okay, so here's our top-down analysis view here. We're looking at being in that danger zone. If you're new here, we've been studying this 1929 trend line to 2000 to present here in 2025 in confluence with the 2008, 2022, and we're at that confluence right now. Price action's trying to push above, having a really difficult time, and in my opinion, forming a top just like any of the other ones, just like this. We don't know what kind of time frame it'll take. Is it going to take 3 months like the last one, or is it going to be done pretty soon here? Are we going to get an inside month? This is what we'll have to wait for. Be patient, and in my opinion, just sell the rip each time. Make sure you take a little bit of profit each time too. All right, so we shorted again today. What else? So the market value, see, we're still highly overvalued. The top was at 211.7% of market value to GDP so far. We're looking here at the weekly, monthly reversal candles at historic trend lines. So that's the main theme of things. So I'll keep that on there. We're also this week, it's options expiration, and I highly doubt we're only going to get 108 points here to the upside or downside on the options expected move. I do think that things are going to get a little bit more wacky and wild here. So hold on to your seatbelts and watch this ride, and hopefully it will be the reversal that we're looking for. And as far as structure, especially on the higher time frames, we're just in a positive structure, but we're at resistance, you guys. So yeah, everything's bullish, but we're at a really important resistance right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through some of these indicators. We have our moving averages. We have that 8 EMA. If you're new here, that's our 8 exponential moving average on every time frame that shows momentum. Momentum is up, but we're against resistance. Okay, the 20 simple moving average is again the trend. It's our trend indicator. It's up, so we're in this positive posture. But every bull market ends in a positive posture. Okay, DMARC. We constantly look at this every week. It's a monthly candle, so we're still at the 3 count. Nothing to see here. We have an 8 count going as well. No setup there. Here's our MACD with negative divergence. We're going to want to see another red histogram here in order to get confirmation that that divergence is playing out. And then we have divergence here. Do we get another one in the very near term? and get a higher low into a higher high, that's the one thing that we're going to have to look out for. And I'll show you what I mean a little bit later in this slow stoke. We're looking for that to roll over. Okay, let's go to the weekly. On the weekly time frame, it looks a little bit different. We don't have the 2008 there, but here's the 1929. So we're above it so far, rejecting off the 2008. We have this hot dog looking pattern. That's a potential reversal pattern here. We have an inside week, and let's see what happens here. Price action couldn't break above this last week so far. It did spike through it, but we'll see how it ends. Do we get another inside week and this end up being a full range that lasts for a month? That's possible. 1, 2, 3 weeks so far. We're working on that 4th week. Let's see what happens. We're going to have to break below this little consolidation area where price held at before. Okay, so we have our moving averages here. Our 8 EMA, we're pushing off of that 8 EMA. We're above it so far, so that's momentum. Trend is all the way down here, and our most important for our trades, and especially our IRA, and that will reflect on the cannabis stocks there as well. I know we're trading to the downside. We're looking for a reversal, but overall trend on the weekly time frame, our simple moving average, that's where we want to be, is underneath that and trend to the downside ultimately, because we're looking for that reversal at this point. But in a bull market, that's where we want price to hold. Although broke down from it from here, we got back above and held that 20. That's a bull market for us. Here's our DMARC. So far, a 1-2 count there. I think it's probably going to the upside. We want to start seeing a count to the downside. Nothing really, no setup here at this point. Okay, going with the MACD, we had that bullish crossover. We did form divergence here once again. But we did have a correction. So in the near term, do we need another divergence? It's possible. It looks like we created one here with that high. And we're getting lower prices here in the lower numbers here in the RSI. So we did have our bear cross already on the weekly time frame. So that's going to start giving us some momentum to the downside, especially when we see this bear cross here. So watch this slow stoke. We're in a position, we're in this condition where we can get this reversal now. A lot of times the MACD can get sticky and just move sideways. So let's see what price action gives us with this early sell signal that we have so far. Okay, we want to go to let's go to the daily, and then we're going to actually switch screens here. So here's our daily time frame. Those are our historic trend lines. We're up against those, and specifically the 2008, we had that fake break, broke down quickly, and we're back testing and just can't get above it at this point. Okay, so right now I want to put on the McClellan oscillator, or excuse me, the index, and then we'll move over to a different screen with the oscillator. So let me pull out here. We didn't quite get to that extreme bull situation, but we did break down from trend. We had this negative divergence from the top here, and we're bouncing. And you can see Tesla just, Apple did it last time. Nvidia's been carrying most of the weight, and combinations of, and Tesla did it today. The market's going down. The market is weak, but the internals, not the market, actual market itself. Obviously, we're bouncing, but the internals are weakening as prices bouncing, and that's not going to hold up. So this reversal is imminent. Again, we don't know if we're going to get some sort of equilibrium once again. So we'll be looking at these trend lines here very carefully on this traditional look. We do have a valid trend line at this point that held. So if this one breaks at this point, we're looking for a reversal. From here, we're looking for a a sell signal from that. But this week, it's possible we make it down to this trend line and get another little bounce, which would give us in my opinion, this is not, there's two counts to this that I'm looking at, but a 1, 2, and then a small lower degree 1, 2, and price could end up off right here, and you can draw a triangle at this point. So you could expect this type of price action this week to hold up here, maybe end up as a mid in the mid range here once again for a equilibrium, and maybe the week after that actually start breaking down. Okay, so we have to just have awareness of what price does if it wants to hold that 1929 and this valid trend line right here. All right, so let me change screens. All right, have our other screen up here, and let's check out our indicators at this point. So here's our moving averages. We're now testing just about to that 8 EMA and that 20 once again. Still in that positive posture here. And there's an oscillator. The summation index is the accumulation of this data day by day, all put into a graph. Now this is at the close, you get the information here. And we're still in bear territory, just not looking good for any real bullish follow through. And so I don't believe this bounce is going to go any higher. It always could eke out a new high here like NDX, and that makes really a good point for the lower time frame. I'm going to show you, so make sure you stick around. I'm going to show you what to expect, and that kind of matches along with this trend line right here, what we should expect from the Qs or NDX into this next few days to weeks for the price action. Here's our awesome, not awesome oscillator. Here's our oscillators. We have our MACD, again with those brand new highs, had negative divergence. And we did have our bearish cross already. And now we're kind of back testing to see if we can cross back over again, with the bounce. And I think we'll see some follow through very soon here, according to the MACD. And so I love showing these indicators, and I know that somebody said, what's the point of all these indicators? They're not working. And they do work. They work really well when you're in a real bullish state. Things get pinned up here. So that's definitely frustrating. But it gives us signals that, things are not as strong as can be. But you also have price levels that you have to compare with it. So and when you match those up with the Elliott waves and structure like that, I do believe these are very powerful. Now, I don't solely trade off these. As the members know, we have a whole different setup that we look for in particular for our trades. Now, again, here's our bounce. Not quite to the oversold area, but if we're going to be bearish, it doesn't have to get that far up. Now, we are in this overbought situation. And let's see if we can roll over. This was our kind of headwind against the bearish position that's giving us our dead cat bounce, in my opinion. Let's see if there's a DMARC setup. So we're looking at a 4 count there. And do we have that 13? We have a 12. Kind of a 12 count as of this point. Not sure if we're getting the setup that we're talking about last week about getting a 13. I don't know all the rules on that to where we don't have a 13 here today. All right, awesome oscillator. All right, here's our awesome oscillator. Had our negative divergence, and we're starting to play out at this point with these bars. I do think we're going to go into negative territory, and this is a moving average. So, when we cross back over, that's going to be very bearish. You do get whipsaws to the downside, but this is what I'm suspecting is that we'll stay underneath this area for quite some time. And let's go to SPY for a money flow index. All right, there's all our divergences playing out. The money flow index caught all of these turns here, and it's a very, very good indicator for accumulation and distribution. And on this bounce here, you got a little bit of buying here accumulating, but I do suspect that this oscillates all the way to the downside after this move starts to play out. So no real setup there, other than the fact you see that the you actually see that the consolidation here broke down, and we're back testing at this point. So Bollinger Band getting real tight once again, just continuing to get tighter, not quite up to the sell point yet. Maybe we get another gap up tomorrow and try to test that Bollinger Band, but I do suspect this will end up breaking down and pushing those bands to the downside. Elliott Oscillator, we already had that play out. We love this indicator as well. Wave 3 into wave 5 looks like it's complete, and a lower degree wave 3 into wave 5 looks complete there. All right, while we're on the daily time frame, let's go ahead and go over to VIX, and then we'll check out MJ. So the VIX had that setup here. We're talking about the range of these wicks, and you have the bodies there. It didn't quite get to the point where it tested the bodies, and we're just into the range of this dominant and minor cycle lows here. So our low could be in at this point. It just have a more of a window here, and it's even better sign that we not only held on to this zone, but actually gapped up and held onto the top of the zone after that. So we do have a nice big gap here. Does it get filled? I don't know that. Inside day, we want to see some follow through at this point to the upside. With the moving averages, got underneath that 8 and the 20. 50 is a little bit higher there. That will have to get above those in order for any follow through to happen there. All right, taking a look at MJ. So here's the basing that we're looking at. We had this W, we had this setup here. And the beautiful thing about this is this massive, massive setup here is starting to play out already. And I didn't think it would play out like this. I thought we would have formed more of a base, maybe rejected off of this downtrend line at this point, and maybe back test here. But, you know, this is good enough. We had a channel that was falling here, rode it down for a while, gave us a double bottom, and now with that double bottom, you have the base here, the neckline, so you can see where price action back tested it and formed a new structure there as well. And in my opinion, this could be a 1-2 and then a 1-2 and then a 1-2. That's very bullish, and now you're starting to get this really small degree 1-2 right there. And now we're in the midst of wave 3, and this could really start playing out and following through into, looks like about the 40 range here, because we're going to have this volume shelf or volume node in this all of this trading here. So we may get a pushback off of this 40 level, and maybe there will be more of a accumulating or buying opportunity. I don't know if it'll come all the way back to the wedge, but this wedge goes way back and we're breaking out of it now. And so even with any back test here, it's just going to be more of an opportunity to buy. And, you know, these numbers go much, much higher to where price action started off on this. And even in that Cannabis video that's at the end, it shows you kind of my expectations, and it compares other ETFs that came out when there were frenzies, like SMH in the year 2000 when it came out in the dot-com bubble. It completely tanked, just like this one. And I show those comparisons, and that's what I'm looking for, is to make new all-time highs in MJ over the next couple decades, decade or two. I'm not sure how long it'll take, but the legalization news that we got today that they're considering is going to be a massive, massive, tailwind for this market and for individual names that are just completely undervalued, and they're profitable companies that just are decimated. So anyway, there's my rant. Let's go to SPY. on the 65-minute. And now the 65-minute, and really, I'm looking at the market as the opposite of that cannabis. Is I'm looking at this being completely overvalued, and money is going to start flowing out of this. Okay, so we have these wedges forming on the lower time frames. Let's take a look at these. We didn't quite get that new all-time high. We had a specific level right around here. Let's call it on SPY 638 or so, that we're looking for price action to either reject or get above and continue. Now, so we still have a bear flag intact. We have, let's see if we have divergences there. It held on here at the close today, so we have a nice valid trend line. So do we get a bounce back into the opening position? It's possible, and then maybe a day after. So CPI, maybe we get a bounce and then a drop after it. I could see that happening, or just another inside day before dropping. We'll have to see what price gives us, but eventually this is gonna fail. And so we're holding on to that 20 so far, just now getting underneath the 8 EMA and the 65-minute. All right, we're looking for the crossover. We do have a slight red histogram here, so that could be the sign of this selling off, a bounce, and then continuation. We had negative divergence here on the RSI, so that's what I was looking for in that move. But that was in the very near term, not from this high here. Okay, and we had our sell signal up at the top there with the spike. We had a sell all the way for the rest of the day in the slow stoke. Let's see if the DMARC gave us any. And you don't have to use, so we're starting the countdown to the downside. No setup here at this point. And you don't have to use all these indicators. I'm just showing you them. I'm showing you multiple ways to look at things. You have to choose your setup in order to trade. All right. You have to choose your levels or indicators or a combination of for you to have your trades in. Okay. That's not what this video is. I'm not showing you every indicator, so you have to use all of them. So we had divergence here in the awesome oscillator at the highs, and that marked our, in my opinion, our top that we're going to get there. DMARC, awesome oscillator. Here's our money flow. We had that divergence form. We didn't know if this wanted to burn through and go all the way up to the overbought territory again. It didn't, and it's continuing lower at this point. So if this is in a bearish situation, then this doesn't have to reach. It doesn't have to reach all the way up there. It can get back to the 60 range and continue lower. It's very similar to the RSI. This only adds volume into it. So clearly we're not getting any volume in that up move here, which is creating the divergence. The Bollinger Band got real tight here, so we had a move to the upside. And you did have the sell signal back here. It did go up a little higher before that. And we're testing the mid-range also with the trend line so far. No setup here. Elliott oscillator, that did the same thing in the very near term. So in my opinion, what this oscillator tells us is wave 3 into wave 5. But that can also be wave ABC into A, into B, into C. So A into C. And I've mentioned that in the past, we just haven't had an example yet. And that, to me, marks the top for using our Elliott oscillator for this move from an ABC. And so that's where the difference comes into SPY and QQQ. So I'll go over there in just a second. And maybe you can argue that this is some sort of leading diagonal to go higher, but we still need to correct from this point. And what I have here is it looks like a 5-wave move, but they get sneaky sometimes. And this is a zigzag. It's an ABC, but now it's a complex A into a B into a C here. Okay. I know that gets tricky. You never know if it's going to do this, if it's going to form into a bigger correction and such. This could have, if it wanted to, this could have been an A, could have got a huge B, and then a move all the way back up to test the highs for a C for a flat pattern. There's all sorts of things the market can do, and that's what we're trying to figure out each and every day. Make sure you hit that notification bell, That's what we try to do, is mark the moves here and try to anticipate what is possible next. So let's go over to the Qs just for a second here, and we'll show you here we made a new high, right? So this ended up being the actual 5-wave move here for ending diagonal. All right, so you have your 1, 3-wave move up for 1, 2, 3-wave move up here for 3, 4, 3-wave move up for a 5. And so again, that to me is the top, and we had our final wave 3 into wave 5 with this move right up here. All right, instead of the well, it's a little bit different in SPY. And you know, that we didn't know if that would be the top there. Like SPY, oftentimes they diverge. It did look different in this move here, stretched out just a little bit more. And so this all ended up being a wave 3. And if SPY doesn't get that new high, you know, its wave 3 ended off somewhere else and then had a 4 and a 5 done. And so what I anticipate is we still need to start a structure to the downside. So we're going to see some sort of wave 1 in here that's just the beginning of this new trend to the downside when we get that reversal. And by the way, we always have to pay attention. Is this going to be an extension? So we're going to have levels that we have in play that if this is now, instead of a wave 5, if this is the beginning of a wave 1 into a wave 2 into 3, 4, 5, just like, you know, back here, at the end of your move, instead of this being the top right here, you could have counted this, and this is, I know you can count it 1,000 different ways, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 5 at the top of here, and this being an ending diagonal right there, that became a 1 instead of a 5. And we were talking about that today and how to identify it in the Elliott oscillator. And so when you pushed and held on to moving averages, that was a 2, and then 3, 4, and 5. All right, so again, we'll watch for a higher low here. This is invalidated. Any bullish interpretation of this being an extension is invalidated under this low here at 552. Okay. Now, with that said, we're looking for an initial move to the downside, and it could end up being a nesting too. It could be a 1, 2, 1, 2. But I think I'll be a little bit more clear on Qs, and then what we'll look for on SPY, because we have a lower high. If it's going to roll over now, which I think it is, then we're going to look for let's look at this here. So if we're looking at this one, first of all, that's our target, really high here. This is probably going to change our target because we have a 1, 2 so far. And then on a lower degree, and I should actually switch these around because now that we are probably going to get a nesting or equilibrium once again. So we're going to get our higher degree, wave 1, into a wave 2. And then with the Qs heading lower, we'll probably get a wave 1 in the SPY ETF. And then another wave 2. That could create an equilibrium right here. And then we have continuation into whenever, next few days or next week or so, to the downside where you get wave 3. But our targets, we'll move these targets to the lower degree on there. And then the Qs will eventually, it will have its initial move, but it'll eventually catch up to the wave count with SPY either in the beginning or the end of this move. So while SPY has a 1, 2, 1, 2, or will, the Qs will only have a 1, 2. And then later on, those wave counts, I don't know if I'm confusing you, but will end up matching up in the end. Okay. All right, so that's what I'm looking for. Again, since this is a weekend video, I'll show you our expanding ending diagonal here of our bull market. And so this expanding move, they're all 3 waves and ABCs. Okay, most of the time they're zigzags. So you have ABC for a 1, ABC for 2, A, B, C for 3, and you see how price action is expanding, and a big crash in a 4. Well, what we're going to figure out here in this year is this 5 done? Are we complete here? And I'm not talking about tomorrow, today, or tomorrow for the near term. I'm talking about later on. Do we just get a correction for our B? And it could be lower, it could be higher, doesn't matter. Do we get a B wave, and then we have an expanding move to where our wave 5, we have to move it way up higher into the 700s and 800s, longer than this move here? Is that a possibility? Absolutely. But for now, our top, I'm counting the top as in here, and then we're looking for wave 1, and then a wave 2 and 3 and such. And if we break down from these lows here, then that's a confirmation. Now that's a long shot away. So price action could come all the way down here to this trend line all the way at the bottom for our expanding move, and still make new highs from that point. So we'll have to determine that each and every week of what's happening, and match it with our indicators and match it with our moving averages in order to have safe trades going into these moves here. So that's what I got for you guys. Hope this helps. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.